This is ABC.
This is ABC and KTNV Las Vegas.
On the handle. The most destructive storm in several years blew through southern Nevada. Winds close to 80 miles an hour ripped a small plane in half and tore down portions of the largest sign in the world.
This morning, the cleanup begins. We'll have a complete report on the damage, and we'll bring you live close up to look at what the storm did to the Hilton sign. Well, it's a night few of us will forget. High winds and torrential rains blasted the valley last night. Hello, I'm Cecily Tynan.
And I'm Doug Smith. Here is what we know at this hour. The storm blew in around 8 o'clock last night. Wind gusts blew up to 80 miles an hour. Power outages and dead phone lines were just a small portion of the damage that wreaked havoc throughout the valley. The most visible sign of damage this morning is the Hilton Hotel marquee. Portions of the 36-story structure actually blew down last night.
Joining us now is Shannon Martindale with the latest on the cleanup and the investigation on the collapse of the sign. Shannon, can you tell us what is the latest right now?
Standing in the middle of the street on Paradise, directly across the street from Riviera to Convention Center Drive, is closed this morning until crews can get in here and basically assess this damage. And believe me, there is plenty of it. The Hilton can no longer lay claim to the world's largest sign. That's because portions of it came crashing down last night. As you can see, it is a mess. There is a lot of metal still dangling in the area. The whole area around the sign has been cordoned off. This is video from last night. Again, the top third of the sign came crashing down. If you got caught in the middle of last night's storm, you know just how hard it rained and just how heavy the winds were. At times, as you mentioned, the winds were clocked up to 80 miles an hour. Now, this sign, we're told, was built to withstand winds of up to 100 miles an hour. Last night's wind and rain caused damage to more than just the Hilton sign, though. John Daly has this report on last night's events.
On the handle.
Mother Nature blitzed the Las Vegas Valley quickly. The biggest hit was the world's tallest sign at the Las Vegas Hilton.
Oh, I was scared. All you could hear was this crackle in the air, and then when it hit, it was just a big rumble, and the ground shook a little bit, and I just turned and went.
Hours later, parts of that Goliath sign were still falling. West of the Strip, Palace Station lost its lights. And at the airport in North Las Vegas, those 70-mile-an-hour winds bent a plane in two. Mother Nature's wrath rounded up the usual suspects in the valley, like the Charleston Underpass, which was closed. Some cars were stuck at other intersections, and of course, there were plenty of power outages, 50,000 residents at the peak. A number of trees were uprooted and dropped as well. Fortunately, there were few injuries, but at the Meadows Mall, it was a close call.
We just heard a whole bunch of people complaining that the windows were falling in and paint had splashed everywhere and the tiles were flying up.
The wind blew out the glass, and the glass fell about 70 feet onto the carousel here. And once it hit here, of course, it smashed on the ground. And you can hear some of the shards of glass that are still down here on the ground. Also, what it blew off was the acoustical ceiling tiles here. These are primarily for sound purposes. These are very, very light. Fortunately, no one was hurt. There were plenty of people here, so it could have been very, very dangerous.
Okay, I should be able to check this number.
And that's where we caught up with Mayor Jan Jones, who was surveying the area.
My advice is to stay at home, keep available candles and other lighting instruments. We have a number of power outages across the valley. As a result of the high winds, we have some level of flooding. We've also lost many street lights and stop signs. So I think it's in everyone's best interest to stay home, listen for information, and wait until the morning till you begin to venture outward.
John Daly, News 13.
What a mess. And in case you didn't notice, there were a lot of cars driving through flood waters in that story. That's exactly what city and county officials stress you don't do, is drive through those flooded areas. They can be very dangerous. As for the Hilton sign, well, this is still a dangerous situation here. The area, as I mentioned, has been cordoned off. You can see steel still dangling from the top third of the sign. It came tumbling down last night. There is debris that has been strewn over this whole area. The Riviera from Convention Center Drive on Paradise is closed this morning until crews can come in and assess the damage here. It's going to be a long day, I'm sure. Doug?
Thanks, Shannon. We will check back with you a little later. And another traffic note, a warning to all drivers this morning. Metro Police are advising that there still are as many as 25 traffic signals that are out at this hour. Now, if you do run across a signal that isn't operating, please treat it like a four-way stop. Crews are working right now to restore power to those lights, so once again, use caution. Well, this morning, weather is not a problem, but another storm could be blowing our way. Here is Cecily with the latest on the weather conditions. Cecily?
Driving into work today because, yes, the roads aren't quite as wet as last night, but now there's a lot of debris all over the roadways. A lot of trees have been downed. As of last night, 50,000 people were without power. Now this morning, hopefully, more people will have power, but again, you definitely want to allow a lot of extra time as you drive into work this morning.
Eyewitness News at noon with Mark Garay and Charlotte Evans.
Well, the elements combined into a course of trouble for work crews here in Las Vegas. High winds knocking down power lines, sparking fires. The winds toppled part of the huge Hilton sign. And the rain brought rapidly moving floods into the valley as well. We'll have a full report. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Garay.
And I'm Charlotte Evans. Fierce winds overnight topped speeds of 70 miles per hour. The National Weather Service says that about a third of an inch of rain fell in the valley. Out at Nellis Air Force Base, residents saw an inch of rain there, and at the lakes, about a half an inch dropped.
About 12,000 people are still without power as we speak around town, but Nevada Power hopes to have everything up and running again by this afternoon. During the storm, about 100 to 150,000 people lost power.
The most startling example of Mother Nature's wrath is visible out at the Las Vegas Hilton. The huge sign out in front that's supposed to withstand wind speeds of up to 130 miles per hour crumbled.
That's where our Bob McNaney is. He joins us live now with more on all that destruction. Bob, I understand you took a chopper up this morning. What did you see up there?
Well, Mark, we saw a lot of destruction in just about every corner of the valley. Again, we are out in front of the mess, basically, that's left behind here at the Hilton. A couple of updates on this situation. We talked to Tom Pappas, who is the structural engineer for this project, and he told us at this point they think some rusted welds at the very top of the sign may have just snapped, and that's what caused the sign to come tumbling down in the high winds. Again, they hope to get up top of the sign later today and get a closer look. They say they may even take the whole pile of debris back to someplace indoors where they can go over it piece by piece. As you mentioned, this is probably the most graphic example of damage in the valley, but as you said, as we were flying around the valley this morning, we saw all kinds of examples of destruction, and it is destruction valley-wide. With the new day came a new view of the damage caused by the violent storm. The Hilton sign proved no match for the 70-mile-an-hour winds. The 360-foot sign now stands crippled. A pile of twisted debris sits at the base of what was the world's tallest sign. Of course, downed power lines are all over the valley. Here along Las Vegas Boulevard near Cashman Field, crews repaired power poles which snapped in the wind. Trees remain fallen and many construction zones remain mired in mud.
We're in the area of Spring Mountain and Rainbow. Now, this is an area that was hard hit last night. Spring Mountain was closed for a long time overnight. The water is now gone, but as you can see, there is a muddy mess left behind.
And in Green Valley, these homes under construction were pancaked by the strong winds. Two-story homes were reduced to piles of lumber. The southbound lanes, a few minutes ago they opened the southbound lanes of Paradise. They don't think the northbound lanes are going to be open for quite a while, perhaps a matter of days, as they try